Framing New Heights. Before I bring on this wonderful human being from across the world, I want to bring in, thank you so much for joining my podcast again, Framing New Heights. I'm the host with the most, Michael Hicks, where transformation meets international living, or I should say intentional living. I've got an international, somewhat celebrity with us today. I'm your host, Michael Hicks, where I like to bring Live to Thrive's heart forward with an approach of faith, clarity, and unstoppable functionality. So today we are joined by a wonderful human, but before I introduce him and bring him on, I got to give you words from our sponsors. Can't sleep, got the aches and pains. I tell y'all, you got to take the supplement. The supplement is amazing. It's a CBD oil. It's proven formula and it's Amish tested. And for only Framing New Heights listeners, you get 50% off at checkout. Here's how it works. If you got the aches and pains, if you cannot sleep, and as we age, for some reason, we've got all these things that happen to us in our life, and we have struggles with sleeping. We've got pain and all that. You get 50% off at checkout by simply go to superfungummies.com and all cap locks, that's all capitalized, New Heights in the checkout. That'll give you 50% off, and there's some wonderful, awesome deals, and that is only for Framing New Heights listeners. And I have to go without further ado, my Live to Thrive coaching agency. What do? I transpire and allow you to be a transformational leader in your own life. I've worked with couples. I've worked with CEOs, millionaires, moms and dads, people like you that are high achievers that are truly looking for more fulfillment in their life. And our wonderful guest today is doing something very similar, and I'm super excited to pick his brain on about that. But if you're looking for more direction, more clarity, more understanding of what life's all about, I'm going to be fully transparent. My caseload is full. I have a waiting list right now. However, if you want more information on just how to fill out the questionnaire, I probably won't be taking any clients in until October, but you can simply go ahead and go into the show notes, or you can go to any one of my social media pages, but I'm going to plug my website right now, which is www.liv2thrive.com. Or if you want to get more information, you can DM me on any of my platforms. I'm on YouTube, you all know that, or any of my social media platforms. All right, well, that is it for the sponsorship. So today I am joined by an author, not only just one book, but two books, and we're gonna get to all that stuff. And his story is absolutely beautiful because he went from a life death experience where he was basically on his deathbed, and devastation to crystal clear clarity. And it's so interesting how I truly believe this sincerely. I think our creator, and for me, it's from a Christian perspective, I think God puts people like Ryan into your life, and he gives them the hard things so that you can uncover the things that he's going to talk about on today's podcast. Ryan, your journey is full of miracles, brother. And after being brutally attacked at the age of 18, you went from medicine-induced despair to being a global beacon of hope. In fact, I need you to tell the listeners where you are chiming in from. Let's go. Tell everybody. Go. I want to hear it.
Hello, my friend. Thank you so much for the intro, by the way. I love your energy, and I'd even buy those gummies, Like, it sounds amazing. The way that you sold it was brilliant. So, yeah, look, I'm Ryan Nurse, and I'm calling in from Thailand. I've been traveling the world since the beginning of April 2022. The last 3 years, I was living in every country from Mexico down to Brazil and back up. And now I've sort of had a bit of a change of scenery, and I've come over to Asia way. So I'm just traveling and ticking off a few countries here because I literally plan to travel the whole world.
Well, if you are ever in the United States, Wisconsin, brother, you got a place. I got you.
Thank you.
I got you, man. Your story's really been a powerful journey, and what I hear is the seed of identity transformation is literally who you are, and it's not just about surviving. However, it's about becoming someone whose scars really have inspired others, and your testimony is beautiful, and that really aligns a lot with what I do, and that's why I want to bring you on my podcast because I think we need to bring individuals that are in the same portal as us because maybe I'm not the right fit and you probably are. So, it's like inner transformation powers outer change. Ryan, you have a book. It's called Sort your SHIT out. For those of you that don't know, that's the word shit. I like to say it. I'm writing a book right now, and don't steal this, please. I'm not going to say it on the air because I think someone will steal it if I use it. Because I use something similar, but I'm not going to call it that. But it's basically a call to clarity, Ryan. And in the coaching world, we say external change without inner resurrection will not stick, right? So, what role? I'm going in right away. What role did mindsets and identity shifts play in your journey?
Fantastic question. So, mindset and identity shift played everything in my journey because, when I was going through those challenging times, especially when I was going through depression after a relationship breakup, my mindset was all over the place, in all honesty. Like my mind was just focusing on every single negative in my life, all of the, say, perceive bad things. And the identity that I created about myself was that I am never going to be happy. I am never going to be successful. I am never going to find another partner. And I kept using this I am statement. And, whenever we use these two of the most powerful words ever, I am, whatever you put after that, you create that identity about yourself. And that's what I done. So I kept myself trapped in this place of lack, of not enough, of misery, of suffering, because that identity that I'd created for myself was the person that was never going to succeed or progress in his life. However, the moment that I did change that identity was when I just started to level up my life. And the thing is, as I end this bit here, we can change our identity at any given moment. Like right now, if you're listening to this and you think your life is bad, everything's going wrong, you're never gonna get out of the place where you're currently at. You can literally choose the identity that you want to give to yourself in this present moment. And you might not be in that place right now, but you can create the identity, and then you're gonna start taking the actions to eventually become that person.
Yeah, it's really well said. I just went to a leadership global summit, and I got to hear you. You'll love this. I got to hear John C. Maxwell speak. It was, dude, it was the most epic thing I've ever been part of. To hear his story and just how he brought lessons. But one of the things that what I got from what you said, Ryan, is it almost starts with our thoughts, right? Our thoughts then dictate our words. And if our words, what I always tell my clients is whatever you associate I am to is who you become. The words you say is who you become. If you're using negative words, that's your life. Like that's who you're going to be. I think of there's a statistic, and I got to look at my notes here because I don't want to mess this up. But there's cognitive behavioral approaches like CBD, which achieve about 50% response rate over depression with sustained remission over months, over even years, and behavior activation shows similar effectiveness. What you described is like turning, how can I say this? It's like turning internal truth into daily choices. That's it right there. That's like clinical gold. You know,
Mm,
you are writing an upcoming book, and I know there's a list for people, and your book is called Dying with Regrets. And brother, I may
yes.
be picking some stuff with you off the air because I'm in the process of doing that because it's the first thing I got to do in order to get a TED talk. So, but you talked about, well, with Dying with Regrets, it's a reminder of like what's at stake, right? And studies on deathbed regrets constantly point to the same themes. They are not living true to yourself, right? And I know you can go in on this, not expressing feelings, not being happier. And then what that does is that mirrors the coaching work with that you and I both do, uncovering those internal anchors that hold clients in loops. So I want you to talk for a second how you guide people, because you talk about a lot of this because I watched a lot of your reels, and you got to check out his stuff. His stuff's amazing. This guy travels all across the world. His life is amazing. His story is amazing. Can you talk about to our audience on how you guide people to release regret and reframe it to fuel rather than a life sentence? Because you lived it, dude. You lived it.
Yeah, so thank you. So yeah, there's the second book that I'm writing now is Dying with Regrets, because you mentioned it there about these top regrets, and there's a book and it's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And like in the moment we're living our lives, we're happy, we're just living each day, and so many people are living on autopilot that they don't even know the direction that they're actually heading. Some people just are living each day thinking, oh yeah, I'm getting to the place where I want to be. But if they took a step back and look from outside the jar, because you can't read the label from inside the jar, if they took a step out and look back in at themselves and think, am I getting closer to or further away from where I ultimately want to be? A lot of people are going down the completely wrong path in their life. And yeah, for me, it's about being that guide for those individuals to show them, okay, so let's just say you carried on living your life the way that you're currently living it. Is it going to get you to the place where you want to be? And if that's a no, which it usually is, what are the benefits of making adjustments, changes, and what are the consequences of just going down the same path? Because ultimately, at the end of our lives, we're just going to regret the things that we didn't do. And this is the facts. We regret the things that we didn't do rather than the things that we did do. So my mission is to ensure that no adults get to the end of their life with those dreaded words of regret trapped in their throat of how they would have, could have, should have, but never.
Dude, you're, oh my gosh, I get goosebumps because you have a different way of saying it, and I love that, and I love your perspective. I always tell, I've said this, like, at the end of our day, and we all, and tomorrow's never guaranteed. Let's be honest. Everybody's always like, Ryan, like, oh, I'll do that diet tomorrow. Oh, I'll start on Monday. Like, how do you know? Like, how do you know you get tomorrow? How do you get to know you get the next hour, dude? Like, you were on your deathbed after getting beat up. You didn't even know if you were going to be here to provide value to people. You know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy to me how people just think that it's going to be okay. But I always say this, and I want to bring this back is when it's our time and we get to face our creator, and you can insert your creator for who you. I don't ever like to push anybody's agenda. I can just speak for me. For me, it'll be God, Jesus Christ, and He's gonna say two things to you. He's gonna say, "Do you want the woulda, coulda, shoulda highlight reel, or do you want the highlight reel that you lived authentically because you were aligned with who you wanted to be?" Do you know what I mean? Like, those are the two choices. And if you lift, and that's the other thing too. You talked about ambition and drive, and it's so funny that you mentioned that because I will literally, I do, I wake up every morning, Ryan, and the first things that I say to myself, the first thing that I always say to myself is, how can I be better than I was the day before, and how can I be walk in a line with Jesus Christ? That's what I do personally. I do that every day, and that means I can change someone's day by simply smiling at them, by saying good morning, by saying something that, and maybe putting their cart away at the grocery store, whatever it might be. How let me how do you take what you've branded, which is beautiful, and an author, and what would you say to someone that's really like in that struggle moment of like uncertainty, unfulfillment? Like, because a lot of people, you know this as well as I do, probably better than anybody that I've had on the podcast, is people rather live with their demon because they know their demon instead of taking the first step into the unknown. How do you bridge that gap? Does that make sense?
Of course, it makes sense. So, look, everyone puts off doing what they know they should do to get them to the place where they ultimately want to be due to some sort of fear, whether it's fear around money, fear about being seen as a beginner, fear about other people's opinions. The list goes on and on and on. But what I teach people is that it's simple, like if nothing changes, then nothing changes. If you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always got. It's simple as that. However, what I teach people mainly is to overcome those demons, those limiting beliefs that we've all created within our own minds. Like we're our worst enemies. But realize that the moment you realize the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change is the exact moment your actions will overcome your anxieties. So the moment that you realize that if I stay on this same path for another year, another 10 years, I'm going to be stuck on this path forever. And do I ultimately want to be going down this pathway that's leading to a place where I really don't want to be? Or do I want to take the momentarily uncomfortable action? Because, never fear failure. I say to people, never ever fear failure. Fear regret. This is what I talk about. Make the pain of regret worse than any other pain that you could ever imagine. Because the pain of fear and failure is temporary, but the pain of regret will last a lifetime.
That's going to be a really good soundbite for the podcast, brother. I appreciate that. That was amazing. I want to talk a little bit about your journey and you are traveling. Can you just first of all tell us what prompted you? Because you know you don't have a family. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe you can explain. Like you're not married. You don't have kids. So you have the ability to just go and travel. Tell me, can you tell the listeners like you were like, I'm just going. Like I remember connecting. We've attempted to connect y'all so many times, but this guy's traveling all across the world, and he's like on a different time zone. So it's always so hard. But I'm so glad and grateful that we got to finally connect. But can you just tell everybody like you are authentically living who you coach people to become, and that's such a beautiful transformation because I think that's another thing too is like if you're going to hire a coach and they're going to preach to talk, they need to align with what they're doing. Can you just kind of what was the defining moment where you were like, dude, I'm going to this country, I'm going to this country, I'm like walk us through that, Ryan, because I want to hear that. I think it's awesome.
Of course, it's a very long story, but I'm gonna break it right down. So, I'd never been abroad before meeting my ex-girlfriend, and we got together when I literally a few months after coming out of hospital. Yeah, so I got with this girl. We ended up having this fast-paced relationship. Got together, and then we started to travel. Not even within a year, I went to my first ever destination abroad, and I was 19 years old at the time. Went to Turkey. After that, I sort of got the bug for travel. So me and her, over the 6.5 year relationship we had together, we travelled all over the world, and it just literally opened my eyes up to the world. Then, what we're going to be speaking about anyway is back in 2019, the relationship started to crumble, and we had a trip booked to go to Cape Town, and in 2020, and she said that she didn't want to go anymore. And for me, it was just like, what am I going to do? Am I going to give up this trip, once in a lifetime trip that we spent thousands of pounds on, or am I just going to pluck up the courage and just change everything myself and go by myself? And then, this is what happens in life. We get to like a T junction, we can go that way or that way, and one of the ways is only going to get us to the place where we want to be down the line. So I had that fear, all those limiting beliefs, anxiety, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to take this path and I'm going to go for it. So I went on this solo trip to Cape Town. It gave me the belief in my own abilities that I could travel. Come back to England, that's when the whole depression, everything kicked in. We can talk about it later. But after that, after going through this depression for 6 months that I went through, I then set myself a goal that I'm going to visit a different country every month for a year. And I've done that for 7 months. However, the COVID situation come in 2020. And for me, it was a devastation for my travels, because in 2020 I said I'm going to visit 20 countries during that year. I booked, I think, 15 countries, and I went to one. I went to Rome, come back to England, and COVID literally wiped out all of my travels. And then, as the years progressed, for like 2 years, from sort of like 2020 to 2022, I just kept saying to my parents, my friends, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to go to all these countries. And I went to a few countries, and I said that I'm going to go to all these places, but it was difficult during COVID, obviously. But then, yeah, one day when I got challenged to quit my job, all of that stuff happened. And then after, I was just sat there, and I believe we get downloads from our creator, from our true authentic self, whatever it is, I don't know. But something was telling me, go to Mexico, go to Mexico. And I was tuned in, I kept hearing it all in the year of 2022, I believe. Yeah, I kept hearing, go to Mexico, go to Mexico. One day I just picked up my credit card and I just booked a one-way ticket to Mexico, and then I left like the next week basically, and then that's it. Yeah, I've been back to England a couple of times just to see my family and to change my clothes. But yeah, I visited now 62, 63 countries, I believe.
Wow. You know, people don't even. And Ryan, how old are you? Tell everybody how old you are.
32 years old now I am.
You know, there's people that, my gosh, I'm 52 and I want to be like you. Like I want to. I have some goals. I do have some goals, and I know I'm going to attain them. Um, man, that is such a heroic stance. Like, what was like? So you're saying you want to travel and you want to do that? Were you scared?
Yeah, I was scared. I still get scared sometimes where I go to places. I go to places that not many people go. I lived in Venezuela for 6 months. All the Venezuelans told me never go there. I went there, I fell in love with it. I'm going to Myanmar in a few weeks, to Burma, and they're having like a civil war. People get scared. People are so scared to go to places. But I'm more scared of hanging about in London nowadays, if you see on the news. But for me, I just override it every time by the clear facts that I am going to die. And, this is what we're going to be talking about today, about my journey, about being on my deathbed and realizing basically I hadn't done shit with my life. And then waking up and thinking, I need to change my life because really, yeah, fear is there, it's present. It's not real, it's fake. Fear is fake, it's false. But fear is there, and fear can stop many from achieving their goals, their dreams, their visions. But then for me, it's about taking action despite the fear and having that mortality motivation, which pushes me through any of the fear. Because I know I'm going to die. Not many things in life are 100% guaranteed, but two things are that we are all born and we will all die. But it's what we do with the opportunity between these two events that really matter most.
You know, what's interesting is, you had this big catastrophic situation that happened. You were on your deathbed at the age of 18. You know, I didn't have it. I didn't even have a clue, dude, until I was like 40, where I started to make a turn. And it's crazy to
Mm.
me is how you did at such an early age. And that's such a commendable, honest thing that I want to share with you because literally, I always tell everybody this. I wish I had me now 20 years ago. Like
Of
you
course,
you
of course,
laugh because but you're like
of
living it,
course.
dude. And that's such an amazing thing. I want to go in a little bit on, you had talked a little bit so far on the podcast about depression, and I know that was a big part of you changing your life. You had talked about it earlier of like you were in depression for 6 months. Can you maybe kind of walk us through that journey that you had, and then what was it, Ryan, that got you out of it?
Okay, yeah, this is a fantastic question. So, I, when I was in hospital with my brain injury, I come out of the hospital, like I just mentioned a moment ago. I met this girl. I knew her before, but she was slightly older than me, only by a few years. So sort of different friendship group, but we knew each other, so we connected, and yeah, we sort of like got with each other, and before you know it, we're traveling around places in England. We're traveling abroad. We end up living together, and on paper, we was living that perfect life. We rented an apartment for a little while, and then we chose to go and buy a property. So I was 21 years old, literally had my own property, just turned 21, and I knew 41-year-olds couldn't even afford a house. So people looking at me like, you're living that perfect life. And that perfect life wasn't so perfect at all, because it was in fact a trap, and it wasn't my dream. As much as society had convinced me I had everything that I needed to be happy, to be successful, to be perfect on paper, this BS of a life that I had created for myself
Yeah.
wasn't what success meant to me. And success is subjective. What it means to me could be completely different to you. And I didn't realize that until the time. And I was literally living in this bubble that society had brainwashed me into believing was the life that I needed. And yeah, many years went by, 6.5 years. We went on the multiple holidays every single year. We had the house, the cars, all of this stuff that society convinces us we need. And I would just felt trapped because as each year went by, I was that car mechanic. I had one job my whole life in one garage, straight from school, car mechanic, because I didn't know what to do with my life. And because I had all of these things over my head, I had no opportunity to actually discover what would truly make me happy and fulfilled. And it gets to a point in your life where the things you own end up owning you. And I was trapped by all of this materialistic crap that I had in my life. And yeah, it got to the point where we went on 5 holidays in 2018 and done this huge extension on our house. And again, people were telling me, like, Ryan, you must be a drug dealer and all of this stuff. And I'm like, bro, I literally work, go to the gym, come home, work, gym, and I've been doing this for years. I said, that is my life. I don't go and party. I don't spend my money on expensive trainers and clothes. Like, this is how I can afford to do this. Like, my focus is on travel, work, home. And that was my life. And as much as it was great, the travel was good, I was trapped in this cycle. Then 2018, like I say, 5 holidays, that whole year, and even years before, now looking back, because again, I said it earlier, I say it again, you can't read the label from inside the jar. And when I look back from an educated set of eyes, that relationship was going downhill for many years prior. And I was blind to it. They say love is blind, and it really is. And yeah, that year 2018, every single holiday that we went on, we just seemed to bicker and argue, and I couldn't understand what was going on. Just got back from Florida actually, the end of 2018, sort of November, just going into December. And my girlfriend of 6.5 years said to me, "We should stop spending as much time with each other." And for me, this was just like setting off alarms in my brain, and I was confused, I was upset, but I said, okay, what do I need to do? And I was basically so desperate for her love, and I was just trying to, "Oh, come on, what can I do? How can I help?" And now looking back again, I was just being needy, and it was just, I was in a bad place there, and I was clueless to what love truly was, and I mean self love. I had no worth for myself. I didn't know who I was, and this was a difficult place to be. And anyone who is going through that or listens to this, they know how hard it is, and I know how hard it is because I was once there. And you're doing such a disservice to your true and authentic self by being that person. And I was that guy, the guy just saying, "What can I do?" Every day I'd walk her out to her car and be like, "Oh, have a good day. How can I help you? Oh, I miss you." And like, come on, Ryan, like, get your shit together, literally. And yeah, this went on for a short period, I guess. Over Christmas, I ended up spending Christmas alone. February, my birthday, I ended up spending that alone. And then this was 2020. God, let me just get the dates right. 2019, I believe. Sorry, yeah, 2019. We had that trip to go to Cape Town. I'm just getting all my dates muddled up. Yeah, we had a trip to go to Cape Town in 2019. Yes, March. And she said to me, "I don't want to go. Like, you should go by yourself." And I was like, okay. I made the decision that I will go. Then I ended up getting a phone call from my younger brother one morning in hysterics. I ended up rushing over to my parents' house from work, and I found out my nan had died. I was so emotionally drained for this whole relationship thing that was going on with me and my girlfriend. I couldn't even shed a tear for my grandma. I was looking over her dead body, and I couldn't even shed one single tear because I was emotionally blank. I was drained. Then I went back to work. I just left my parents, everyone, my family. I went back to work. I didn't even tell them at work. They thought my nan was okay, and no one asked because I was just so blank face. Little did they know that she had died. And when I went home that evening, my girlfriend that had gone away for the weekend with her mum, I see the car had arrived back at home, and I went in there, and she asked why I looked like the way that I looked, and I wasn't crying. I was just like blank. And then I told her, my nan, and she was like in hysterics. And I was just like, "Just leave me alone, please," because in that time we were sleeping in separate beds, and it was just all going downhill. And yeah, and then I found out maybe a few weeks later, literally the weekend before that, I was going to Cape Town. I'd planned it all. I'd rearranged everything, and I felt pumped. I felt ready to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Then I I walked into a restaurant with my friend that had been helping me out in those difficult moments. He said, "Let's go out for some food." So I picked him up. We walked into a restaurant, and in that moment, I literally walked into this restaurant about 5 minutes from our house. And my
No.
friend sat down on the table, and on the table next to us was my girlfriend, sat with another random guy. And this was literally a couple of days before I was going to Cape Town. It was the day before her birthday. She told me she was going into London with her mum that evening. Clearly not. She was going 5 minutes down the road to an Italian restaurant with this guy.
Jeez.
And I just kept my cool and I just said, "What are you doing here?" And then I just laid it out to her exactly how I felt, the situation that we was in, and then moving forward, what's going to happen. And she did not like one bit of it. And I just told her how I genuinely felt. I wasn't rude. I wasn't nasty. I just laid
Yeah.
it out. And then I said, "I'm going to Cape Town. I'm going to have the time of my life. We're going to come back. We're going to sell the house, and then we part ways." And the next day I went over. I was very angry. I was very drunk. I went over to her parents' house the next day for her 30th birthday at the time, and I shouldn't have done this, but I did, and I can't go back and change it. And then I just asked her to be honest with me. I just said, "What's going on?" And she goes, "I knew this guy only for 2 weeks, basically," and then tried to blame me for everything. I
Nice.
went home that evening to try and find our my waterproof case for my phone to go onto the beach with, and it was under the second bed where she had been sleeping in a backpack we keep all the travel stuff. And I remember I walked in there, I opened this bag, I pull out one passport, hers, chucked it, pull out another passport, even though I already had my passport in my bag. I open it. It's the same guy that she said she had been with for 2 weeks. Two tickets to Dubai, and they got back 2 weeks ago, the day that my nana died. So nobody goes on their first date to Dubai. So
No.
I just put it all back in the bag. And I said, "I'm so done with this." I went to Cape Town. The next morning, I arrived at the airport. She texted me, like, "You don't know what you saw. This is just a friend," and all this spiel. And
Yeah.
I just delete her number, block. Went to Cape Town, had the best 2.5 weeks of my life. I felt like a new man. I felt like I could accomplish anything. I pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. But then this is when disaster struck, I guess. I come back to England, and literally the day that I walked through that front door, it was just basically an empty home. And I was just like, in that moment, two things that I hated were the sound of silence and my own company. And in that very moment, just walking through with my backpack on, I just dropped it and I broke down in tears because I realized in that moment, that's all I had, me and this home, just me in it. I believe that home was a prison at one point. I literally told myself it was a prison, and as the days progressed, I didn't progress, and it was just going downhill. It was like a Groundhog Day to start with, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. Where I was on this deep downhill spiral of depression, and I was desperate. I was googling how to be happy,
Mm.
like looking for all of the answers externally, but not realizing that they all come from within. And I soon turned to drink and drugs. And this is the person that was so anti-drugs and drunk maybe a handful of times a week, a year, like special occasions, birthday, Christmas, and that's about it. And now I was drinking sometimes a handful of times a day. And I was so desperate to find this happiness, and I was looking everywhere. And yeah, I turned to those drugs, and it got to the point where things got so bad I said to myself, I need to take myself to the doctors. And I did. I took myself to the doctors. I was scared, I was confused, I didn't know what to do. And I was so desperate for help from someone else. And they were so quick to just push that prescription across the desk to say that you are depressed. They didn't even listen to me. They just give me a prescription. I drove away with that prescription just staring at me on the passenger seat, and I thought, I don't want to take it. I'm so confused because she told me that it's going to make you feel worse before you feel better. And I thought, I'm at rock bottom. If I feel any worse than I am now, like, I'm going to do something which my future self will really regret. I went back. I didn't take the antidepressants. The next week, I just went out and got destroyed, drugs a lot, and I was just really bad. So again, I went back to the doctors. I said, "Please, is there not another option?" And this is when they said the CBT. therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is when they told me about this. I never knew anything about this, and I said, "Yeah, this sounds perfect. Sounds fantastic." I got enrolled in this. I had to wait a few weeks. Those weeks were quite challenging. I finally managed to get onto it. I didn't want to leave work because I could have done them in person, so I decided to do them over the phone. I started to do them on my lunch break at work. So I really didn't. I felt I was so attached to my company. You know, I was like, "Oh, I've got to stay at work," and no, I really didn't. But in that moment, I believed I did, and I was so loyal to the company. I used to go sit in my car with no aircon, with the windows up in red hot summer in England, sweating whilst trying to do these CBT calls. And yeah, in fairness, the first maybe 3 or 4 sessions were great, but then they were just so scripted, and she wasn't listening to my pain, and I didn't connect with it. And for me, it was just horrible at one point. And in all honesty, I just lied myself out of that. I lied myself, and I just one day got on the phone. And I said, "I feel so great. These conversations have changed my life, and I don't need them anymore." She knew I was lying, but she couldn't do anything about it. And that very same weekend, literally the next day, I went home and I planned to kill myself.
So what happened?
So yeah, the very next day, I believe it was the Saturday, I woke up in the morning and I knew exactly what I was going to do, and I had it all planned out in my mind. I just stayed in bed. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. And I was just going round and round in my mind. You know, I couldn't even make a decision. And I finally dragged myself downstairs to go and do what I knew I was going to do. And I just slumped myself over on the sofa and I was just bawling my eyes out, just in hysterics, crying. And you know, I had that shoulder angel on one side and shoulder devil on the other side, and the angel was just saying, "Ryan, remember your biggest fear is death." And it was like I was so petrified of death. They were saying, "Ryan, just remember your biggest fear is death." And then I had the devil on the other side saying, "Right, like Ryan, don't be a pussy, don't be scared. You're so scared to do anything, like you can't do anything." And
For sure.
you know, I was so confused within my own mind, and I was so upset and angry with myself because I couldn't even decide whether to kill myself or not. And this is how bad things have got. And as I just kept procrastinating basically over and over again, I finally managed to use my fear in my favor. And that fear of death saved me from doing something which, again, ultimately would have been the end of me. And that procrastination caused me to just ruminate and just think over and over about all these things that could happen and would happen, and how it's going to be when I'm not here, and sort of the destruction that I'm going to leave behind. As I procrastinated over and over, out of nowhere, this just one single thought come into my mind out of nowhere, and I don't know where it come from. But that thought said, "Could I live with the thought of dying with regrets?"
Wow. Wow.
I don't know where that come from, but I just listened to it. And again, could I live with the thought of dying with regrets? And I just held on to this thought, you know, it's like magnetized towards me, and I was pulling it closer. And I just kept repeating that same thought. Could I live with the thought of dying with regrets? And I was like, Ryan, I've not done nothing to try and get myself up and out of this ditch that I had created for myself. I
Mhm.
was just digging it deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'd done nothing to even look for a slightly open door somewhere else or a different pathway. I've just been repeating that same old shit cycle over and over. And I was like, well, what if? What if I tried to do something? What if I asked for help, the right help? What if I just reached out to someone that could even just change my thinking, just give me some sort of guidance? What if? You know, and as I sort of just kept repeating that same thought and just looking at the opportunities rather than the obstacles, things just started to come into my mind, and I just started to look around me and I just think, Ryan, I'm sat in this like lovely home. I'm like mid-20s. I'm sat in this beautiful home. I've been all around the world already with this girl that I thought I loved. Yeah, the relationship's not great, but at least I'm in a position where I've got clothes on my back, I've got food in the fridge, I've got a roof over my head, I've got shoes on my feet, all of this stuff, you know, I've got all of these things that people would love to have. There was so many people out there living on that cold, hard concrete that would give everything they have. They would love to trade places with me. And there's me feeling down, feeling sorry for myself, when there's so many people that would just give everything that they could ever have and do have and more to just swap places with me, even for a day. Like they would they would give their very best day for even just one of my very worst days, you know. And the moment I sort of started to think about that, I just realised like I've got it pretty okay, and yeah, I don't feel good in this moment, but it could be a whole lot worse. And the moment I started to think those thoughts and feelings, I just started to just practice gratitude. And I didn't even know what the word gratitude meant. I just started to say, like, I'm so thankful for all of this stuff that I have, and I should be happy. Like, I should be so happy for this. And then that evening, those following days, I just started to practice daily gratitude. I didn't even know, again, I didn't know what it meant. I just started to write down, I am thankful for. I am thankful for. I started to look out the window in the morning. The sun was shining through those blinds. I am thankful for the sun. No one taught me about gratitude and about journaling, but I was doing it. Like my intuition was guiding me to journal and to practice gratitude. And you know, that was such a game changer for me because in that moment, I told you I was so desperate for this happiness, which I believe was externally. I used to wake up in that moment before that day that I was going to commit suicide. I used to wake up in maybe for a month or 2 months before that. I used to wake up every morning and I used to scream, literally scream the words, "Fuck you!" I screamed it because I hated to wake up. It sounds horrible. I hated to wake up. But you know that day after
Wow.
that thought, could I live with the thought of dying with regrets? I started to practice gratitude. I started to speak gratitude. I started to journal. I started to think positive. I flipped that thought from "fuck you" to "thank you."
Wow.
You know, because every single day we all open two gifts, and that
Yes.
is our eyes, and that's why they call this moment the present. You know, if you're listening to this and you've been lucky enough to open the two most precious, priceless gifts, which are your eyes, you've been gifted with something that many people don't get. I
Uh,
believe there's something like 100,000 people a day don't get to open their eyes. If you've got to open your eyes, you've got another chance. You've got another 64,000, 68,000, what was it? 200, I can't remember. 68,400 seconds or whatever it is. I forget the number now, but
well, there's
you get to
168
open
hours in it. I know. I was just at a convention. We were just talking about this. I know there's 168 hours in a week. I know that, but then somebody broke down into seconds. Yeah.
86,400 maybe. I don't know. I get the numbers
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. No,
Go into
I get it. Yeah.
ChatGPT. 86,400, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're lucky enough to open your eyes, you get that. You get another day. You get another day and another opportunity. I literally believe we all get opportunities handed to us on a daily basis. They're abundant. They're everywhere. They're just like oxygen in the air. You know, nobody goes out of their front door in the morning and says, "Oh, I wonder if there's enough oxygen between us all." But so many people go out there and say, "I wonder if there's enough opportunities for me. Where's these opportunities?" You know, if you've got the gift of opening your eyes to go and try again, you've got an opportunity to change your life. You can change your life in 1 single second. Go
You
out
know,
there and change your life, my friends.
oh man, thank you. That is a beautiful transformational story, and I think in it from this perspective. If God gave you, or insert creator, gave you another day to open up your eyes, you have purpose
Mm,
in life. You have purpose in life.
yep,
Like
yep.
that's really what it comes down to. You know, it's interesting because I got a lot of, you improve your self esteem, you improve your self confidence. 80% of coaching does that for clients, which that's exactly what you do. Here's another statistic: 73% say coaching helps relationships, performance, and wellness. You know, it's so apparent, um, Ryan, that we live in a society of quick fixes.
Mm.
Talk to me a little bit about that. And I know where you're going to go, but I want to hear your perspective because you lived it. What does identity alignment look like in your work, and how do you guide people to internal clarity rather than those quick fixes?
Again, simple, so simple. I'm going to say this. This is a quote that I made up, and it says this: True suffering is when your actions contradict your dreams and desires. Just think about that. I'll repeat it. True suffering is when your actions contradict your dreams and desires. So, what does this mean? This means I want to be successful business owner. I want to have all of this money. I want to have a lovely family, children, a wife that loves me, a husband that means everything to me. We connect so much. All of these perfect things that you want to have in the future, this compelling future, but then you're spending time with negative people. You're going to the pub drinking. You're doing drugs. You're complaining at every single thing. You hate your job, but you're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
There's no alignment. Like, this is like trying to put a round plug in a square hole. Like, it's not ever gonna work, because what you want and what you're doing is not a fit. And so many people are living their life with this concept. They are begging and wishing for this better life, and they are doing nothing. They're just carrying on living that same old life on repeat over and over again. You know who said it? Einstein, was it? Doing the same things over again,
Yeah.
expecting different results, is near
Yeah.
insanity, and that is
Yeah.
literally sums it all up.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think of the perspective of, I don't remember where exactly I got this from, but most people, I want to say the statistics crazy. I think it's around 90% of what you just mentioned do not walk with a twinkle in their eye.
Mm.
You know, and it's insane. And I want to go in here because we're getting to the top of the hour here. And gosh, I think we could just talk forever because it's amazing your journey. I'm gonna probably have to have you on a second time because I didn't even get to everything that I wanted. But I want you. So you wrote the book, sort your shit out, and now you're writing Dying with Regrets. Okay.
Yes.
If our listeners could walk away with one core message to break the cycle of old results, what would it be?
This is a great question, by the way. I could answer this in a million ways and more, but I think the most simple way is that you're going to die. We get one opportunity. For all we know, we got one round at this. There's no reverse, replay, restart. We got one opportunity at this life. You know, when we are born, we're all given a birth certificate. But just imagine your creator, your maker, whoever it is, gives you that death certificate. So you could clearly see your exact day of death stamped on there. You know when you're going to exit this earth. How would that then alter your each and every move that you made whilst you had your opportunity here? Would you do the same things over and over? Would you speak to the same people, go to the same places, stay in that same job, let fear control your life and hold you back from becoming the person that you were designed and created to be? Or would you say, I'm on limited time, I'm on borrowed time, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try everything, because if I don't try, I don't know. If I don't go for it, I'm not going to just stay in the perceived safety of my comfort zone, trapped in this life that I ultimately don't want to be in. Or do I just give it a shot? You know?
You know, I think of, I don't know if you're a country guy, but I think Tim McGraw sang a song, and I don't know the name of it. I might have to look it up, but it's something they get the diagnosis, and then the reframe is something like, well, what did you do? And then he sings, I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went something like I think of that immediately, and man, you're right, and it's such a powerful message to leave with everybody today. Ryan, I want to leave with this. Imagine the person who can hold lasting change. How do
Mm.
they look different from the person chasing after it?
Repeat that again, just so I got
Yeah,
it clear.
imagine the person who can hold lasting change. How do they look different from the person chasing after it?
So if you're chasing change, and that is in the sense of short term gratification, if you're chasing that instant gratification, that instant change, I'm going to change my life because I'm going to go and do these drugs. I'm going to go to this place. I'm gonna change my life instantly. Chasing money, you want quick wins. Oh, I'm gonna stick all of my money in crypto. Usually the best things in life take time to blossom, to bloom, to come into fruition. not many things in life that I can think of off the top of my head have been amazing that come instantly for me, to be fair. Nothing worth having comes at an instance.
It
So
doesn't.
if you're chasing change that you want to last, you're going to be running forever. You're going to be stuck on that treadmill of life, literally running. And people that are just running forever get worn out, they get burnt out, they get tired, they give up, you know. But if you're being guided, you know the correct tools, you have a vision for yourself, you're taking action steps, you're living in alignment with the person that you ultimately want to become, this is when you actually evolve. You don't change, you evolve into the person that you ultimately want to be. And that's when you actually love the process, because they say the reward is the journey and not the destination. And it is, because on that journey, it is you going from who you once were to who you want to be. And that takes a process of evolution. And it doesn't happen overnight. But when you become that person that is deep down within inside of you, you become unstoppable. You become untouchable, because you've learned the tools, the tactics. You have the mindset, the mental strength to become that person that deserves the change and who is the change. It's like the lottery winners. If I gave you a billion bucks right now and you didn't have the mindset to deal with that amount of money, the first thing is cars, holidays, homes, and the money just gets. You know what comes quick also goes quick, my friend.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I had a great on my last episode just recently. I had a financial coach on. He said the majority of people. His name is Paris Clough. You guys got to go back and listen to that. An amazing main story to just sort your finances out. He said people need to stop spending tomorrow's. How did he say that? Stop spending tomorrow's money today. Like we expect, like, okay, you got a job, you've got income that comes in, you got a paycheck, but people live like it's going to be there every single day.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, hey, I want everybody to. So, I mean, you're a keynote speaker. You're writing your second book. You travel across the world, which
mhm.
is amazing. I want everybody to know how they can hire Ryan Nurse as their coach. Give all your plugs and everything you need to. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, thank you very much, my friend. So really, look, I'll start with this. If you want to just get on the path, if you're in a place now, you're very confused, you don't know what to do, go and buy my book. It's literally the price of a few coffees. Sort your shit out. Go to Amazon, type in "sort your shit out" Ryan Nurse. It's going to come up, and literally every single thing I know is in that book from start to finish. How I took my life from deathbed to sunbed, from depression to progression. You know, from calamity to crystal clear clarity. Everything is in that book, and you can just learn it for a price of a couple of Starbucks, basically. So go and get that book, and then if you really want to work properly, deeply on yourself and have that guidance, that support, because that's when true change happens. Yeah, of course, you can read the book, you can get insights, you can start to level up your life. It's going to be difficult to have that ongoing, long lasting change that we just spoke about without a real support system, a guidance in the support of a mentor or a coach. So if this sounds great to you, just reach out to me, Instagram, send me a DM. This is the best place, and I can just, yeah, talk to you further and let
Give
you
them
know what the options are.
give them your Instagram, Ryan, and all your socials. Go ahead, plug it.
Of course,
Your
the
website.
Instagram is the best place to catch me. So just catch me on at Ryan Nurse underscore. On every social media, it's the same, Ryan Nurse underscore. But Instagram, send me a DM, comment on one of my pictures, and I'll likely see it then. So yeah, send me a DM, and yeah, I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
And all of you that are listening, all of his credentials will be in the show notes as well. So when you are downloading this and feeling this, and Ryan, it's your story as we exit today. You know, your story reminds us that like transformation isn't luck. Like
Mm,
I fully believe that. I don't use the word luck. I call it blessings, and it's identity, insight, and it's intentionality of you becoming who you are. And your testimony today, brother, is beautiful, and it's it's impactful, and it's so captivating. And I just want to say thank you so much from me and to all of our listeners for sharing tonight.
Thank you, my friend, and literally thank you for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, as always, you heard it here on Framing New Heights podcast. My name is Michael Hicks, the host with the most. And as always, 1% better in mind, body, and soul. Ryan, I know you're like a kung fu guy. Raise them up. Stay flexed. Brother, I'll reach out to you with more details. Have a great night.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much.